welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome. My name is Zoe, but most people know me as DA Reptiles, and today we're going to be doing a Q&A video about my job. So I'm actually currently at my job right now, working the night shift, so what better time to film a Q&A about my job. So I apologize if it is a little dark, maybe not greatest quality. Like I said, I am working the night shift. I'm manning the fireplace right now, so we've got the nice fireplace behind us. And I don't really feel like turning on a light in here because it's just super bright. And I just like the relaxing ambiance of the whole situation right now. So we're just going to film as is. So for those of you that are new, I'll give you a little background information. I work at my local nature center. I am a naturalist here and head of animal care. So that is my job. I'm a former AZA zoo educator, and I won't tell you my degree because I think that's one of the questions that I got. But yeah, so that's what my job title is. I get questions about my job all the time just because it is kind of an obscure job, because not like your usual like zookeeper or something like that. So I do get questions all the time, and I've done zookeeper Q&As, I've done zoo educator Q&As, I've done college Q&As. I've never done like a naturalist Q&A. So I decided, why not? I'm spending the night here, well, not like spending the whole night, but like I'm here until 9 o'clock at night. So I figured, you know, why not film a video tonight? So I didn't think I would be able to because I literally put on Instagram right before coming here, like, hey, give me your questions, so I'm gonna film a Q&A. So I didn't think I would have enough time to like actually get questions for this video. But the couple people that have asked me questions, some of them actually asked me a lot of questions. So I figured, you know what, why not film this in parts? We'll go ahead and film tonight with the questions that I have, because it's a lot from just a couple people, but there's a lot. And then if I get more questions, I'll do a part 2. So this is part 1 of my naturalist working in a nature center Q&A video. So don't mind me, I've got my blanket and my white fuzzy Crocs and the fireplace, and we're all comfy and cozy. I've got chocolate somewhere. I don't know where it went, but I did bring chocolate with me, and I've got my water. Okay, so I've got my phone here, so we're gonna pull up the questions. So let's see. Our first question on Instagram is, this is a good one. I get asked a lot of college questions constantly, questions about degrees. So actually, we won't start with this one, because I think this other one asks me about my degree. So we'll start there, because that gives you some background information. So we're over to my YouTube community tab, but this is from 𝘬𝙤𝙪𝙞𝙣𝙠𝙨. I'm sorry if I say any of your names wrong, Amins or Amins, but from Layla on YouTube. She asks, what degree do you have? That's the first question. What degree do you have? I would love to have a job similar to yours in the future, but do not know how to achieve that. So my degree is in animal behavior, ecology, and conservation, and I have a minor in zoo biology. So with my degree, it kind of covers all aspects of like everything you could possibly ever want to do with animals. So it's a very nice degree. It gives you lots of options. It looks really nice on your resume because people look at that and they're like, dang, that's a little bit of everything. But there's a lot of colleges that have like a zoology degree, an animal behavior degree. There's lots of different degrees out there, but like even biology, sometimes they'll take a biology degree because biology is hard. So how to achieve that in the future, we're actually going to talk about that with another question that someone asked, so we're going to hold on to that. So the next question that Layla asks is, how much is your salary if you don't mind sharing? If not, I totally get that. So I'm not one that's like, oh my god, numbers, like I'm not going to share numbers. But when it comes to my salary, I'll be a little reserved. Like I'll talk about it a little bit, but I won't give you like the flat out number. What I will tell you is I do make more here at the nature center than I would probably ever make as a zookeeper. I make as much as maybe I would make if I was a zookeeper for like a decade, and like I was keeper 1 and like the top keeper or section keeper. Different zoos call them different things. At the zoos that I was used to, they were called like keeper 1. So maybe if I worked in a zoo for like a decade and made it to like top dog zookeeper, maybe then I would make as much as I make right now. but I make a pretty good amount right now. Now I do want to say that typically you don't make much working at a nature center. It is like working for a zoo. You do usually make bare minimum, if that. I know a lot of people, when they work at a nature center, it's volunteer only. So we are very fortunate that our nature center was actually taken over by a bigger organization, like a big organization. I won't say who because I'm very private about like where I work and where I live and everything, but this big organization funds us. So we are very, very fortunate to be a nature center that is well off and that does have funds, because that's very unusual for a nature center. So I just ended up being very lucky that I live where I live and that I got this job and that this facility is here. Okay, the next question from Layla is, what is your favorite part about working there and your least favorite part? So my favorite part about working here definitely has to be that I'm in charge of animal care. I learned real quick over the last couple of years that I do not really like working for other people. I don't like being the low man on the totem pole. I don't like having to answer to other people. I don't like feeling like I don't want to say I don't know what I'm doing, but that I need lots of permission to do things. So like at the zoo, I was the low man on the totem pole. I was the new educator. My only job really was to go out and do programs. So if there was no programs, I was usually sitting around twiddling my thumbs. In order to do anything else, I had to either have someone tell me what they needed me to do, or I had to go ask permission to do something. And being in the education department, it just was not ideal. We'll just leave it at that. So I don't love working under people. I don't like being the bottom man. So being here and being in charge of animal care, and I mean I still have my director who is above me, but the rest of us are pretty equal. So if anything happens to animal care, like it's my call, it's my say. The only other person who has to agree with me is my director, and she tells me all the time, you're the one with the experience and the degree, and so whatever you say is what we're gonna do. And I love that. I love the freedom. I love that I know what needs to be done and I can just do it. So I think that's my favorite part, is just that I am in charge, because I don't like working under other people. And so it's very nice that my director she's super awesome. She's like the one person that I'm okay working for. So because I started out here as a part-timer before getting a job at the zoo. So this was a temporary job for me that I ended up loving. And so when I left, I didn't end up loving my job, and I wanted to come back here, which is why I'm now back here full time. Even though the goal was always to work in a zoo, I liked working here. There's only 4 of us, so it's a very small, little tight-knit group. There's a lot of freedom. If you have an idea, usually you get to run with it. My boss is very laid back, and she encourages you to come up with ideas and to do whatever ideas you've got, and it's a very good place for me to work. But yeah, my favorite is definitely that I'm in charge of animal care. My least favorite, I don't know, I don't want to say the programs. Like, I do enjoy education and working with the public and teaching kids. So maybe my least favorite part is that I do have to teach things that I don't really enjoy. So I do have to teach like fish programs. We have a tracking program. I haven't had to teach it yet because I'm horrible at tracking. So I can't really teach something that I myself am horrible at and don't understand. And then, you know, there's a lot of like nature-y plant stuff, like tree ID, plant ID. Like, I can't do any of that. I've tried to learn. It's so difficult. My specialty is definitely animal care and husbandry, not so much the nature biology aspects of the job. I guess one of my other least favorite parts would also be that we have skiing and snowshoeing, like cross-country skiing and snowshoeing in the winter. It's not that I don't enjoy it, it just takes up a majority of our time. We're most busy in the winter because everyone comes out to ski and snowshoe. And handing out snowshoes is super easy. It's the skiing that's difficult because you have to get them fitted into boots, get them fitted for poles, and then go out and get them skis, help them get into skis. So that's just this whole process. And like I said, there's like 4 of us that work here. So on like a busy weekend day, we're running, skiing, and snowshoeing the whole time, and all I'm thinking about is all the animal care stuff that I could be doing. So it is fun. I mean, I like to go out and ski and snowshoe. I guess I just don't really like that it takes the whole day. And in the winter, it's like that's all it feels like we're doing is skiing and snowshoeing. That's like the main part of the nature center, skiing and snowshoeing. Where for me, my focus is in animal care. Okay, and the last question that Layla asks is, what animal is your absolute favorite at your job? Please include a picture. Anyone that has followed me on Instagram or followed or like seen any of my nature center videos, I think there's only like 2 of them, but mainly if you follow me on Instagram, you already know who my favorite is. So my favorite animal here is Donut. He is our 3, almost 4-year-old snapping turtle, or maybe he's 4 now. 4-year-old snapping turtle. He is so precious, the absolute, I love him. He is just the greatest. I can't wait for him to get big. He's pretty good with handling. That's one of my big tasks, is to make sure that he's handled regularly, so when he gets big he is still handleable. So he's pretty good. He does have his limits, so when he reaches his limit he lets you know. But he's pretty good. He's my baby. I love Donut so much. Okay, so thank you, Layla, for your questions. We're gonna move it back over to Instagram. Okay, so back over to Instagram. Treble Exotics asks, could someone with animal experience but not a biology degree be able to work with animals? Yes, absolutely. So before I get off of the whole degree thing, like I said earlier, a biology degree is just 1 degree you could have to work with animals. Alright, my apologies. Parks Police was just snooping around my car. No reason to worry. But yeah, this is the first time that I've done the night shift, so they don't recognize my car. I mean, I still am not new, but new, I mean, compared to everyone else. They've been here for a long time. I've been here for a year. So Parks Police doesn't recognize my car yet. And it is a new car, kind of. It's almost a year old now too, but that's besides the point. So he was just snooping around my vehicle with a flashlight, so I had to go out, well, tried to go out and see what was going on, but pulled up in a personal car. So first I hid. And then I saw the police uniform. So I went out to talk to him, to like wave and be like, yo, it's just me. No one's lost on the trails, I swear. But he drove away. So anyway, we left off talking about degrees. So biology degree is just one of the number of degrees you can have to work with animals. Like I said, mine is totally different. There's also zoology degrees. There's lots of degrees. Now, I always said, you know, a degree is what separates candidates. It can help them kind of weed out people applying for the jobs. But after spending a couple years in the zoo field and actually applying to jobs, sorry, texting my boss about the Parks Police. So anyway, after spending a couple years in the zoo field and applying jobs myself and interviewing and whatnot, what is actually most important when coming in to work with animals is your experience. That's ultimately what people are looking for, is that you have experience to back you up in the field. So for me, my education job, I actually didn't apply for that job. I applied for a apprentice keeper position that apparently, unbeknown to me, during the interview process, they decided they weren't going to have that position anymore. So I was essentially applying to a position and interviewing for a position that they decided to get rid of during the interview process. But during my interviews, we talked a lot about the programs I did here at the Nature Center and the field trips that I did here with kids and my reptile programs I did here at the Nature Center. So I became very, and the fact that I've coached skating for over a decade, so I became very valuable with my education experience. So they actually called me like the day after they told me they weren't going to hire me for the apprentice position. They called me like the next day and was like, we actually would like to have you in our education department instead. So I ended up taking that job. So that interview wasn't even really an interview. They just wanted to talk about all of the programs and stuff that I do here at the Nature Center. And so it's your experience that ultimately makes you valuable. So more volunteering you do, internships, whatever experience you can get, even if it's something you don't really like, it's still something you can put on your resume. So like my internship at the aquarium that I did my senior year of college, my least favorite internship, I really did not like it there. But I stuck it out because it allowed me to put an aquarium on my resume, which looks really good for this job when I first came in as a part-timer, because we deal with a lot of aquariums here. It's a lot of water quality, filtration systems. So me having experience in life support in a zoo and in an aquarium looked really good. So ultimately, it's your experience that matters. So absolutely, you can get an animal job without a biology degree. Okay, and our last questions come from Amanda.b.woods on Instagram, and she asks quite a lot of questions. So enough to really fill this video. So even though I got 3 people before coming to work, we got enough questions for a whole video. So where do we start? I guess we'll go right in order of her questions. So her first one is, what is your job exactly? Like, is it a small zoo or a place to show animals in like a small building? So my job exactly, I know when I say naturalist, sometimes that confuses people. I've had people think that I meant naturist. I'm definitely not a naturist. So as a naturalist, I teach people about our environment, nature, native animals, conservation. I encourage outdoor recreation. So again, we do skiing and snowshoeing. We take people on walks in the woods. We have lots of trails. So we'll take people like field trips and whatnot on guided walks and point things out. So we do a lot of that. That's kind of what I do as a naturist. And then as head of animal care, I take care of the animals here at the building. Not alone, but primarily by myself. The other staff will help because there is a lot to do and I'm just one person. So they will help me like with cleaning tanks or cleaning filters, some feeding if I'm not working on a feeding day. So everyone can do everything. It's primarily my job to do the animal care stuff. No, we're not like a zoo. We are just kind of like a small building, a nature center. We've got taxidermy animals and then pretty much just frogs, turtles, and fish. And a mud puppy and some F's. All we are allowed to have is fish and herps, which I'm hoping someday we can expand. That's my dream, is that maybe we can be a place that can take in unreleasable rehabs. That's like my dream. I'd love to see that happen. But our higher ups currently say no, but baby steps, baby steps. Okay, so her next question is, do you get to take your work home? Depends on what aspect of work you're talking about. I have taken lots home. I do a lot of video editing for work. If we do a virtual, I don't know, some sort of video lesson. So like when we first closed down last March because of Corona, we did daily videos, and so every single day I was editing a video to post. So I did that at home a lot. I have taken animals home with me. We had one of our old tree frogs had a prolapse and he came home to live with me. Currently our ambassador Ackie monitor is at home with me because, like I think I said at the beginning of the video, the building is very cold in winter. Our heating system doesn't work very well, and the office especially gets really cold, and that's where the Ackie was living. And he's just a baby, so I had room for him at home. But because he does primarily fall under my care, I was in charge of taking him home and caring for him there because I didn't feel comfortable. Because my boss and I didn't feel comfortable having him here with the temperatures getting so low at night. So he does live at home with me right now. So I guess technically I do take my work home with me. Okay, so my next question, or her next question, is what do you do all day, like your daily tasks or assignments before you go home? So we've kind of touched on this a little bit throughout the whole video, but let me just give you a day in the life. So I come in the morning, I do my rounds. I walk around, make sure all the animals look good, their lights are on, their filters are working, you know, and then we're all responsible for going around and making sure all the monitors are working. So all of our, like the TVs, computers, all the fun little like hands-on activities, make sure that's all working. Bathroom lights are on, get a fire going, put the skis outside if it's ski season so they're ready to go. So all your like morning maintenance stuff we're all responsible for. We have a checklist. And then throughout the day it's greeting guests, hanging out with guests, teaching guests, doing whatever needs to be done for animal care. So skis and snowshoe rentals we do all day in the winter. Throughout the day, if it's a feeding day, then I'll be feeding animals. If it's water quality day, I'll be doing water quality. I'd be cleaning tanks. It just depends on the day. So I do have a schedule for animal care, but depending on the day, that depends on what I'm doing. Normally we would have at least 2 programs a day, or we might have field trip groups coming out, but with COVID we haven't been able to have programs. So all we've been able to offer are our ski and snowshoe rentals. But normally we would have programs during the day that people can just come and join for. So whether it's a craft or some sort of activity, a learn to ski program. So normally people can show up for them, but we're not allowed to have those right now. So got a lot of downtime, but it gives me plenty of time to clean things. Our next question, how high of an education do you need to work there? So I will say I have my degree, we know what that is now. My 2 other coworkers have degrees in biology, I believe, and then my director, I forget what her degree is, but she does have one, and she worked in the offices at another wild center before being hired as the director here. So she was kind of higher up there too, and her best friend is the director there. So she's got a lot of experience as well. So for being a full-time position here, having a degree or experience within the field is ideal because we are a very small run facility. Like I said, there's only 4 of us, and there usually is only 4 full-time staff, including my director. So not including her, 3 of us. So I actually got my position because one of my coworkers from before I left, when I was a part-timer, he was a full-timer, he left for another job, which opened up his spot, so that's why I was able to move home and take this job. For part-time, obviously we get a lot of high schoolers. I was fresh out of college, so I had the degree and experience that would have been fine for full-time, but I only needed a part-time job at the time. But a lot of our part-timers are just high schoolers, so as long as they're enthusiastic about working with the public, then they're good to go. So we want people that are very outgoing and have no problem talking to the public, helping with programs, leading programs. Like, this is a good job to gain experience in and really grow. So that's what we aim for with like the part-timers. But to be full-time, because there's so few of us, being super ideal in the field, being super ideal within this field, like with your degree and your experience, seems to be pretty key. I gotta find her stuff again. Instagram refreshed. Okay, 2 more questions. So our next one is, do you only work with reptiles at that place? So like I said earlier, herps and fish. That is what we work with. So if you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen a lot of the animals. Our last question, would you prefer this job over the zoo? Now I'll say, would you prefer this job over a zoo, because we know how I felt about working in the education department at my last job. So would you prefer this job over a zoo? There's yes and no aspects to it, which is why it was so hard for me to make the decision to move back home when my whole life was planned around becoming a zookeeper. You guys have heard the Seaav story like a million times now, so I won't go like really deep into it. But yes and no. This job pays better. It's in my hometown, so my family's here, my boyfriend is here. It allows my boyfriend to stay with his job, which is a very good job. So it allows him to keep that and not have to move jobs. All his friends are here. So my skating club is here, and my coaches are here because my coaches are my parents. So because it's a small town, because my parents are here, because I'm making better money, I'm able to continue to skate, which was a very important thing for me, and that I can coach. So I'm booked. I came back and I'm completely booked with students. I love all my students. I love coaching skating. So not being able to do that was super hard for me. And I came to the realization that working in a zoo, I wouldn't be able to do that because I would not be financially stable enough. And most zoos are in cities, and cities tend to have very good skaters and very good coaches. So I, again, would be a low man on the totem pole, which we all know how I feel about that. This job just provides a little more financial stability. Like I said, I'm in charge of animal care. The only person I have to answer to is my director, and she's like, you're the one with the experience, do what you think is best. So in that sense, this job is best. I do prefer this job over a zoo in those aspects. The only reason that I would prefer a zoo over this job is because of the type of animals I would get to work with. Because like I said, we're only allowed fish and herps here. I'm hoping someday that can change. I'm pushing for it to change. Part of the problem is that I'm the only one with a zoo background, but also the big organization that took over the nature center, they're the ones that make the rules, not us. So I miss working with birds of prey so much. That was my favorite part of my job in education. That was something I'd always wanted to do, so when I got to do it, it was amazing. I loved it so much. You guys know Tyrion, the Merlin that we had, was my absolute favorite. He was my baby. I brought him on every program. I miss working with them so much. So I would love for us to be able to get some birds of prey. Possum, I mean, these are all things that are native animals to our area, so they're things that would totally fit right in with the nature center, and I would be totally content. But you know, I am sad I missed out on my opportunity to work with gators, Komodo dragons, like all these really exotic things that I was looking forward to, that I spent my whole life focused on. My whole life was focused on working in a zoo. So that's the one thing that kind of bums me out, is that, you know, this isn't a zoo. It's a great job. It's a perfect job for me. But it's not a zoo, and I can't call myself a zookeeper. So that's where it's kind of iffy. So overall, I know this job is better for me than working in a zoo. It's just the fact that it's not a zoo and that I can't call myself a zookeeper that makes me want a zoo over this job. But in every other aspect, this job is much better than working in a zoo for me personally. Because like I said, I have other things to consider. My skating career, my coaching career, my animals. I have to be able to afford to feed all of my animals. So I have to take everything into consideration, which would make this job better for me than working in a zoo. Alright, so those are all the questions we've gotten so far. So that ends part 1 of the Naturalist Q&A video. So make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss part 2 if you're still curious about my job or have more questions. And as always, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you for the next video. Bye!